Well, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. This is the state of the garden at the beginning of May. If y'all were following along with us, y'all got to see all the different things we did. We did flame weeding, just normal weeding, and these invasive grasses that we have just came back in full force and are completely taking over all of the raised beds. And I really don't know what to do for an organic option. I like to grow that way and not use like chemicals, but I am kind of at my wit's end and don't know what to do. So I think this year we are going to try and put ground cover in the raised beds as a weed barrier. Now, I know that is not very aesthetically pleasing, but I'm kind of at the point to where I've got to do something because they are just completely taking over everything. So that's the plan. I did not show doing any of that. I did all of that in my herb gardening video, and I thought it would be rather repetitive. So I'm just going to show the before and after, and it really has been working great so far. We'll have to see as the season progresses if we still like it, but so far it has been almost like a sanity saver. So the first thing we're going to be planting out today are the sweet potatoes. And look at these slips. This is the second cutting off of the sweet potatoes. I cannot believe they are so long. Everything is doing so good, and I truly believe it's because of my garden planting calendar. I share a video each month where I go through what days are best to plant when and what days are not good to plant. This is where I use the lunar phases and the astrological signs and track all of this, and I have been using this method or system for years, and ever since I started that, I have had so much more luck with all of the plants doing better. So I am a big believer in this method. Also, with sweet potatoes, keep in mind that they really love the heat. So I try and make sure not to plant mine out until the nights are no colder than 50 degrees, and I prefer it to be more 55 degrees. I found that if you plant them and it's colder than that, they get stunted and they do not do nearly as well or produce nearly as much. Now that we got the ground cover down, we need to make holes to plant the sweet potatoes in. So whenever I did the regular potatoes, I was using a little handheld torch, and it took a really long time. So Robert suggested using this bigger torch, and I was pretty intimidated by it, so he said he would help me with it. And oh man, this thing was such a time saver. So I would suggest starting with this instead of the other little torch. It was great. So you're always learning with different things, and I have learned that I definitely would rather use this torch. Now that we have the holes ready, it's time to plant the sweet potatoes, and this year we are doing lots of experiments. I experimented a little bit with this last year, but I kind of just threw things in willy-nilly and did not do good with record keeping of where I planted what. So this year I'm going to try and be better. So far I'm doing really good. I've got everything marked down of what's planted where, and just fingers crossed that I manage to remember to do good whenever it comes to the harvesting of them. So if y'all missed any of our previous videos, I took y'all along showing you all the several different methods that I'm using to try and see what does better. And we grow two main varieties of sweet potatoes. We grow the Beauregard sweet potatoes, which is an orange flesh tomato, or not tomatoes, sweet potato. Oh my goodness. Okay, and then we also grow a white sweet potato, and this one is not very prolific, but the flavor is amazing. It is super good. And if y'all live in the South, I highly recommend sweet potatoes. They are so easy and so productive, and they love the heat. Like, the heat does not bother them at all, and they're pretty drought tolerant as well, and they just produce so much and for such a little space that you need. For the past few years, I have planted sweet potatoes in this bed as well as my peppers, and I have been able to grow enough of sweet potatoes and peppers for our family to last a year, so we don't have to buy those things from the store anymore. That is pretty amazing. And this is a 4x16 bed. So we are super excited about that, that they are super productive. You don't need a lot of space to be able to grow what you need for your family. So the first experiment we're trying is growing the sweet potato in soil. We literally just put the sweet potato in the soil and then we potted up the plants, which already have roots on them, which was really, really easy and nice. I just potted them up into little containers. And that's what I'm planting here at the front of the bed first. Then I moved on to the sweet potato slips. And I don't know what happened with mine this year. Some of them didn't look so great, like with the leaves, but I think they're going to be okay. They're still doing all right for the most part, except for the bunnies. They keep eating them, and that's another issue I have is the bunnies. But I really like the bunnies, so I just try and plant more to make up for that. Let's see. So the other way, there's actually two other ways that I'm planting them, is as you can tell, some of those sweet potato slips didn't have roots. So I didn't want to waste those. I just went ahead and stuck them in the ground too, and they are doing great. I was really surprised by this. I have never tried to do that before, but actually those are looking better than the ones with roots. I was really surprised by that. And also, whenever I moved on to this other bed and planted some, I had the actual potato itself still left, and I didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't want to waste it. So I also threw those into the ground, and we'll see how that does too. I don't know. I've never ever tried that before, but I thought it would be fun since I'm doing all of these experiments just to throw it in and see. I did good with my record keeping so far, so hopefully we will know what does good. But as far as what's doing well right now, as I was saying, this is like the early May, and we're a little bit further along than that now. I think early June. So right now, the ones that were in the pots with the soil have grown so much and are so bushy and super happy. Now, that possibly could be because the rabbits did come and munch on some of the regular sweet potato slips. But I'm pretty sure they got some of the ones that are in the soil as well. I just think that they recovered better. So I'm not sure. Like I said, it'll all depend on the harvest and what everything looks like there. But as of right now, the ones that are in the soil are doing so much better. And I think I have a few of them, like where it's the actual whole potato. Those are doing pretty good too, but they actually don't look as good as the plants that we like potted up in the soil. So I'm really, really curious as to what our harvest are going to look like. Oh, and another thing I really love about sweet potatoes is they're just a beautiful plant. They have these vines that have these beautiful green leaves, and like I said, they are not affected by the heat at all. And they have these beautiful purple flowers that I think are just gorgeous. So I really, really love them. They are not only delicious, but they are also beautiful. They are also very versatile in the kitchen. They can be used for savory dishes or sweet dishes, and they are super easy. We have shared a recipe with our sweet potato fries. Of course, if you're in the South, you've had sweet potato pie and let's see, sweet potato casserole. There are so many things you can do with it. And another really, really good thing about them is they are super easy. Basically, you harvest them, let them cure for about 2 weeks. So it's super easy. I just store mine in a crate in the kitchen. I don't have like a fancy root cellar or anything like that. And they will last until about the end of April. If I'm lucky, May, but that about then they're starting to kind of fall off a lot, but they last a really, really long time in the kitchen, and they're just super easy. Like with tomatoes and peppers and things like that, you have to process them quickly, and I don't know, they just aren't as easy as sweet potatoes, and they last for such a long time. I am shocked every year that they can just last months in no special conditions, like literally just the kitchen. So I highly recommend them. Okay, so here's what we've got planted. We've got 4 of the Beauregard sweet potatoes that we grew in the pots. That we have those there. And then we have 5 white sweet potatoes. These are these 5 here. That one that's kind of a slip that doesn't look so good, that's not it. But we have 5 of those that we grew in the pot. And then we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 of these white sweet potatoes. These ones here and these ones here are the white sweet potato slips that we grew in the jar that had roots on them. And then these ones here, I'm trying to remember, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these Beauregard sweet potatoes that we put in as slips and had roots on them. They're not looking so good. I think they needed nutrients, and it's a fertilizer issue because I gave them a little fertilizer and they were already starting to put leaves on and do a lot better. So I think that's what it is. So they ought to be really happy in the garden bed. And then here I have a few white sweet potatoes. We have 4 white sweet potatoes. I literally, as I was carrying these over, they fell over. And so I just decided to plant them. I don't know if they're going to make it or not because they have no roots or anything. So we're doing even more experimenting. And the same goes for these down here. These are the Beauregard. They're like that too. They just fell over. So I decided, why not? Get a little sneak peek of how pretty the peas are. And down here, let's see, we'll just start up here at the front. So as you can tell, we had a lot fall off, so I just decided instead of wasting them, we're going to go ahead and plant them. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. These are the Beauregard sweet potatoes that are orange. And then I also have the 3 sweet potatoes, like actual whole sweet potatoes that we grew the slips on. I went ahead and planted 3 of the Beauregard, and I only had 1 of the white sweet potatoes, so we have that. And then in our tray where we grew the sweet potatoes that we potted up, I went ahead and planted what was left in there. So we have 1 white sweet potato. This is a piece of a white sweet potato. I don't know if it's going to make it or not. And then this is the Beauregard sweet potato. So we have got all of our sweet potatoes planted, and I am shocked with Robert's help with the putting all the little holes in. It took me like, I think 20-30 minutes tops. So that may be like the fastest I've ever been able to get that done. So that was pretty amazing. And it's crazy too, because usually we plant all of our like tomatoes and peppers sooner and they're like the first thing to go in, not the sweet potatoes. But the temperatures look fine, and honestly it would have been really hard to get in here to plant the sweet potatoes and after the peppers were already in here. So I think that was a good call, and it's going to work out great. Now we're moving on, and it's been several weeks later. Now we're going to plant some of our squash, and I don't know about y'all, but being in the South, I have struggled with squash so much. We have so many issues with squash bugs, and it can be really challenging. Last year, I was really happy with the pumpkins that we grew. We grew an Amish pie pumpkin, and it did really, really well. I think we had only 1 plant. There may have been 2, but I think it was only 1, and we got almost 30 pounds. Like, it was a few ounces away from 30 pounds of pumpkins off of it, and it was so good. So this year I'm going to try and grow a little bit more of that, as well as some other pumpkins that I have always wanted to try. The first ones here that I'm putting in are going to be Long Island cheese pumpkins, and these are pumpkins that you have to let cure for a while. If I'm not mistaken, they need to cure for at least a month, if not 2 months, but they will literally last on the shelf for a year. So I hope some of those end up making it, because I have been wanting to grow those for a really long time. Another pumpkin that I wanted to grow, but I don't think I got any of to grow, was the Dickinson's pumpkin. Those are from Baker Creek. I don't know why, but I have struggled so much with getting so many of their seeds to sprout. I literally planted like 6 seeds in each cell and still didn't get any of them to germinate, and the seeds aren't very old. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I also bought the Long Island cheese from them, and I had low germination, but at least I still had some. And there's also people that I've seen that live in the same state that I do that grow these Long Island cheese pumpkins, and they do really well. So I'm hoping that I have the same luck. So that's the main things. I think I have 2 or 3 of the Long Island cheese pumpkins. And I didn't mean to plant these others here, but it just kind of, they were in the squash family, so I planted them. I also planted some lemon squash at the end. I had grew this a few years ago and it did okay. I was actually kind of disappointed with the production that I got off of them, but they did hold up pretty well to the squash bugs. So I'm going to give it another try this year as well. I'm also going to be planting some Amish pie pumpkins at the arbor. I was really happy with how they did last year, and I'm trying to do that. I planted one on each end of the arbor. I thought that would look really magical with the little pumpkins growing. I love pumpkins anyways, so I thought that would be super cute in the fall. But I only ended up having one of them take, the other one ended up dying. So sadly, we only have one, but maybe that one will just do amazing and completely cover the arbor and produce really good like the one we had last year. I'm also trying to add blood meal in as an amendment with this. I know it's kind of like a good all-purpose amendment, so I'm trying that to see if that helps too. I do not have a lot of soil in this bed and it's a really new bed, so I'm still trying to build all that up, so I thought that would be good to add. And if y'all have any suggestions of squashes to grow or your favorite squash, please leave them down in the comments below because I am still really new to squash and pumpkins and those things. So I am all ears and I love to experiment and try things. So if y'all have any recommendations, I would really appreciate that. Also, don't forget to water in the transplants. I find that this helps a lot with shock and they just do so much better. And if you're like me, you're always in the race against a storm. Sometimes they beat you and sometimes they just completely vanish. So I find that it's best just to go ahead and water it. That way they for sure have plenty of water. That's all that we have for today. Thank y'all all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Y'all take care and we'll see you next time. Bye!